Here we go. So I can have this for all of my life.
Oh my god, I'm looking at this on a flight, I'm tired. She was a
No,
princess.
you have to start from the beginning. Once upon a
She
time.
was, once upon a time, there was this princess.
Yeah.
And she had all these toys. Her name was Princess Petunia Pepperwinkle. The third, actually.
The third.
The third.
Okay.
She was from a long line of Petunia Pepperwinkles.
Oh, okay.
Her mother was a Petunia Pepperwinkle, and her grandmother was a Petunia Pepperwinkle.
Okay.
Her great-grandmother was Agnes Pepperwinkle, but we won't talk about her.
Okay.
She was the black sheep of the family. So, Princess Petunia Pepperwinkle, who actually liked to be called Pete.
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 Okay.
She didn't really like Petunia. She just liked Pete.
Pete.
She had the most amazing toy room you have ever seen. I mean, think of like the best jungle gym you've ever seen, but like way better.
Like all the slides.
She had the slides and the balls and the video games, and she had all kinds of stuff.
Like the zip line.
Well, she didn't exactly have a zip line because,
okay.
you know, but she had a pool which made up for it. And so she just was a great and all, but the problem was Petunia Pepperwinkle, Princess Petunia Pepperwinkle, let's not forget her title, Pete, was lonely. She was lonely because she had no friends. One day, she was looking out of her window, and she could see the town kind of off in the distance. It was out there, but there was the gardens and the playground and the horse riding area, and so by the time she actually saw where the conflict was, it was quite a ways off. Because of all the, you know, but once you pass the tennis courts and the pool and all that other stuff, it was out there.
All that stuff.
Yeah. And she saw what appeared to be this little girl. Just kind of, actually it was like three of them, and they were all playing and doing Ring Around the Rosie or something like that. Not that she knew what Ring Around the Rosie was, but she saw them all dancing in a circle.
Right.
And then they all went home except the one girl who stopped to pick flowers. And so she would see them there a couple of days. So she decided to go out and talk to these girls. So she couldn't. So one day when she watched, and they came about the same day every day to this little field outside the wall. So one day she went, got out of her bed, dressed, went through her playground room, and had to go through the balls, because that's the way it was a little bit annoying, but that's okay. She went through the ballroom, and then out the door, down the long stairs, past the TV room, and then out into the courtyard, around the pool, past the rose garden, said hello to her horses, because her little pony, you know, was there, and she loved her pony. So she said hi to the pony, and she kept going past the tennis courts, till finally she got to the wall. And she climbed up the wall. And she waited for the girls. And they came down. She heard them singing and playing. She goes, gosh, I wish I had some friends. So, again, all the other girls went off, and this one girl stayed. And so Princess Petunia Pepperwinkle the third said, hey, what's your name? This girl looked around like, up here, I'm up here. The girl looks up. She says, hi, what are you doing way up there? She says, this is where I live. It is? You live behind that wall? Yeah. Oh. Well, don't you ever get a nosebleed? It's awful high. Silly, I don't live here up here. I live down. There's a whole nother thing back there. Oh. And, well, mine and Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third said, "What's your name?" And she said, "My name is Peggy." And she said, "My name is Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third, but you can call me Pete." She goes, "Pete's a boy's name." She goes, "Okay, you can call me Princess Petunia. Princess Petunia." Peggy said, "No, Pete's just fine. I can deal with Pete." And so Princess Pete said, "Hey, you were playing with your friends that circle game. That was really cool. What is it?" And she said, "It's Ring Around the Rosie. Have you ever played Ring Around?" "No, not really, because it's just me, and I don't know, it just wouldn't be as much fun me holding my hands and twirling around." And she said, "Oh," she goes, "I don't have any friends, but I got lots of toys." And Peggy said, "Well, I got lots of friends, but we haven't ever had any toys, none." And Princess Pete said, "I wish I had friends." And Peggy said, "I wish I had some toys." And then the weirdest idea came to Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third. She thought, that girl Peggy looks a lot like me. Maybe we could just swap for a day. So she says, "Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you come in and play, and I'll go out and play with your friends, because we look similar, and if we change clothes, then maybe no one would even notice." Peggy says, "I'm covered in filth, and you have roses in your hair. I think someone's going to notice." She goes, "Well, you can have the roses, and we have a pool. You can wash off in it, and we have a garden, and I'll get some dirt, and it'll all do." So she opened the gate and got her in. They washed off in the pool and put some dirt on Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third, and she says, "Now remember, her name is Peggy." And she says, "Your name is Pete, except you can't say that because Mother, Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the second, gets very upset. So please, just remember my whole name." And Peggy said, "No problem." So off they went. Pete, now Peggy, went running off to play with these friends. And she did look an awful lot like Peggy. Meanwhile, Princess Petunia, who was actually Peggy, it's a very confusing story, but run with it, went in to check out the toy room and had the best time. It was such a great day. And then she said, well, and they had this wonderful bed, large bed, and Peggy, alias Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third, laid in it and had a great night's sleep and said, "This is the best life ever." And they had agreed that tomorrow, right before dinner, they would switch back. But in the meantime, she was going to have a fun time with the sleepover. And no one even really noticed because, and honestly, no one really paid a lot of attention to Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle the third, so they were able to get by with it. Well, it was a great night. And it would have gone well, except that they did it on a Sunday. And on Monday, that's when Headmistress Margaret Marchery came in and said, Princess, it's time for your lessons today." And Peggy said, What lessons?" "You've got to learn important things, like which way the fork goes and how you're supposed to walk, and you have your high heel lessons, and we got to do your hair again today, and oh my gosh, you're a mess. You've got a full schedule of all this stuff." And she drug Peggy out and put her in these high heels, and she had to walk all around like that, and she had to hold her straight with a cup of water on her head, and it just kept going everywhere, and it was not fun at all. And they kept asking her questions about which fork was for what, and she didn't care. She didn't even need a fork, because when she ate her lunch, she just picked it up. The spoon was awfully handy. What the hell do you need a fork for anyway? So it was not going well. And then it came time for English lessons. And they asked her name, and for the life of her, Peggy couldn't remember what her full name was supposed to be. And it was kind of a problem because people were starting to get suspicious. Meanwhile, the real Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle III was having a little bit of a problem herself because there were pigs to be fed, there were chickens' heads to be cut off and plucked. There was some nastiness. She didn't even know what it was and didn't even want to ask. It involved dirt and gross thing that stunk horribly, and she just did not. She was not. And so she said, "Nope, I'm the princess." And then, as in all the stories, they're like, "Yeah, sure you are." "No, but I am." "No, really, you're not." But that's okay. So by the time 5 o'clock rolled around, both girls were ready to switch back. So they both went to the wall. And this time Peggy, who was dragging a little bit because she had had a hard day of walking and doing and whatever, and the forks, thinking about things she didn't know. And Princess Petunia, who really had some stuff in between her fingernails she didn't think would ever come out. And they met and they switched back. And they said that was not such a great idea. It was fun. And then Peggy said, "You know what would be better? Maybe sometimes you could come out and play with us and we don't switch." And Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle said, "Yeah, or maybe sometimes all your friends could come in and we could go swimming and stuff. And then I wouldn't have to go outside. Well, that would be fun too." So that became a regular thing, and they all went to their things and lived happily ever after. Princess Petunia Pimperwinkle III went on to become a very wonderful princess with there was an apple involved, but that's a whole other story. And and Peggy, no one really ever heard of Peggy after that. That's just the way it is when you're dirt poor. And that's the end of the story.